This is where it all started. And since then, everyone has been clamoring to get in on the act. So it was only a matter of time then before Porsche came to play. I just can't believe it's taken them so long. Now, coupes were always by default two-door sedans, but that pretty much went out the door when manufacturers started adding doors. Think of cars like the CLS and the A7. Suddenly a new segment was born. But why stop there? Why not continue that coupe-like treatment with SUVs and crossovers? But what makes this different? What makes it a coupe? Well, it's this cutback or sloping roofline. And for that sportier persona, you get less space and you pay more money for it. The roof is 20 millimeters lower, but they have dropped the rear seating position by 30 millimeters. At 6 foot, I think I'm probably at the extreme of the rear passenger comfort level, but legroom is fantastic. This panoramic roof is standard, and that's a good thing because it certainly does help to create a sense of space in what is a slightly more confined interior. Up front, it's pretty much what we saw in the third generation Cayenne when it launched a year ago. Lots of buttons of the haptic variety, plenty of switches, and even a good old rotary dial. Taking center stage in the dash layout is the old school fixed analog rev counter, supported by smaller digital dials to the left and right. To be honest, for me, a little overwhelming and a bit too busy, but strangely enough, that's been the Porsche way for some time now. Admittedly, German logic means it doesn't take too long to figure it all out. But all round, typical Porsche, which is good quality materials and really well put together. So the boot space is down by 145 litres when the seats are up and 170 litres when the seats are down, but you still do have a pretty generous space to work with. What is important to remember though is that these cars all sit pretty high off the ground, so loading isn't the easiest. It originally launched in South Africa with just two derivatives. The top of the range, the Turbo, with its 4-litre twin-turbo V8, and then the model that we're currently driving in, the base, Cayenne Coupe, with a 3-litre V6 turbo engine that produces 250 kilowatts and 450 Newton meters. Your 0 to 100 sprint time is going to come up in 6 seconds, which is actually pretty impressive. But since then, they have expanded the model lineup, adding in the S and the hybrids. So essentially everything you can get in a Cayenne, you can now get in the Cayenne Coupe. All make use of an 8-speed auto transmission, which is a gem of a gearbox. Really so smooth and responsive. Never left in two minds in terms of what it wants to do or responding to your inputs. Really good. But it really is a fantastic car to drive. I just love the feel of the steering, both in terms of the driver feedback and level of engagement for a big SUV like this, but also just how the wheel feels in your hand. It's the right thickness, which is great. But with that adaptive suspension, it is a very comfortable cruiser. So like this, the daily commute is going to be done in refined luxury, which is fantastic. But that inherent Porsche DNA is never too far away. Just head for a couple of corners and you'll see what I mean. I literally am on the bench on this one, not because I've got an issue with the product. In actual fact, the Cayenne Coupe are probably the pick of the bunch when it comes to SUVs. I'm just trying to get my head around who the consumer is. The entry level, that 3-litre V6 engine is fantastic, plenty fast enough. Yet somehow with that traditional 911 styling, It feels like it needs the brutality of a V8, that punch in the gut, that thrill, that wow. So you've then got to go and spend probably 2.5 million for the top spec. Part of me says, why not just buy an entry-level Cayenne with a 3-litre engine? Perfect, practicality, box ticked, and then get yourself a GT3. That would be the best of both worlds. But I guess there are consumers out there that are new to the brand, that will fall in love with the looks and the looks alone. There are probably lovers of Porsche who have grown up and have now decided that this is a fantastic compromise. A compromise that hasn't looked or driven better. I'm going to bring you in here, Chad, because you haven't driven it. So talk to us about where you're sitting, what you think of the looks.
I'm also one, I don't believe that anything with 4 doors should carry the moniker Coupe. It's just a total watering down bastardization of the nomenclature. And yeah, I'm still on the fence. I don't know. I mean, the sales figures won't lie. And this coupe SUV segment still performs extremely well without hurting regular SUV sales. So I can't fight that. I really can't argue that, but it's not for me. I suppose if you're going to sit on a fence, it's probably the most comfortable place to sit.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, a lot of people are buying the looks. We wanting to buy the performance, but like I said in my review, when I drove it, I feel like I want to be punched by a V8. And I'm looking at that top spec now. I mean, that turbo SE. Imagine that turbo with the hybrid as well. Nuts. Your driving impression of that 2.9. I said it's probably the sweet spot in the range.
Yeah.
Work well. I mean, we know how good it is in the RS4 Avant and the RS5. It's a great engine.
It's phenomenal that the engine and gearbox work so nicely as a daily driving package. I know it's sad that Porsche moved away from diesels, because I think at the entry point into the Cayenne range, when they used to have a diesel, it was a good option for consumers. But going from a sort of a terrible naturally aspirated entry-level Cayenne to this turbocharged 3-litre, I think that's a good move for them.
Yeah.
But having said that, the 2.9 twin turbo sourced from Audi, that is definitely probably going to be the bread and butter model within the lineup. I mean, it's plenty fast.
Yeah.
The press car had the sports chrono package, get to 100 in 5 seconds. I mean, it's quite ridiculous. And that's like mid-level performance. And then there's still a turbo and a turbo SE hybrid.
Yeah, a really cool car. I mean, and like we're all on the same page. But you can't fault it. Geez, what they do, they seem to really nail every single time.